We open to a place that looks very Borgy indeed. Our roving camera settles on a drone whose eye movements suggest it's dreaming, which is a bit odd. It wakes and departs, flanked by a couple of mates. Some more exploration takes us to the Borg Queen, though she'll now be known as the Borg Dominatrix by order of Admiral Genesism. Which particular Borg Dominatrix we're looking at is entirely another matter. I was under the impression the last one, with whom this one shares a striking resemblance, had been murderized. Her personal vessel got minced by Voyager a season and a half back, so either the Borg have grown another boss, or she wasn't on it. Dream Drone arrives in the Dominatrix's chambers, and we discover that she's not best pleased. Dream Drone here is different from most other drones, and he's not alone. She refers to it as a sickness and a disease and a mutation, which makes me suspect it's none of the above. Dream Drone remains silent in the face of her demands for more data, so she removes him from the collective. He's still resistant and claims to know nothing, despite his clear discomfort, so she orders him removed and disassembled for her to pick over the parts. Does our robotic regent have an uprising on her hands? Perhaps not wanting to be outdone, Seven's dreaming too. She reports the event to the doc, more than a little concerned by the experience. Describing it to him, she says that one of the people in it seemed familiar, but she can't place where he's from. He used her human name too, so that's another wrinkle to deal with. She doesn't want to deal with it though. The whole thing was new, and new is scary, so she asks the doc to correct her malfunction. Unfortunately, dreams aren't a malfunction for humans, and this is just the latest step in her journey, so she'll have to suck it up and get used to it. On the plus side, he gives her a gizmo to monitor her sleep and subsequent dream states. Perhaps turning it into science will help her adapt. Up on the bridge, Paris discovers a wooden box on his chair as he reports for duty. No, it's not a bomb, but rather a pip for his collar. He's been reinstated to his former rank, the one he got demoted from about a year and a half back.
I didn't notice a little box on my chair.
Who are you, exactly?
No time for celebrations, though, as we receive a distress call. Actually, that's not true. We receive a blank signal with nothing in it, but Chakotay thinks it looks like a distress call, so we're going to have a gander anyway. The signal came from a rock, and one that's not responding when we tried to contact them. Hardly surprising, really, as something's uber-fucked them from the looks of it. The something is Borg, according to Tuvok, and we detect a D6 nearby, so Janeway makes a note, while Voyager makes itself scarce. Seven's decided to give that whole dreaming thing another go, and after attaching the net gizmo, away we go. It's night time in the Dream Forest, and that apparently means there are added Klingons. Bit odd, but maybe Klingons are nocturnal like Meowth and have a higher spawn rate at night. Seven legs it and runs into the familiar lad from earlier, and him having more lines suggests that they'll be important, so let's superglue a name on him. He'll now be known as... Captain Spicy Brain, suggested by Commander M. Rowland. Captain Spicy Brain stops her and tells her that this isn't a dream. No, it's actually UNIMATRIX 0, which is apparently a shared consciousness between drones, specifically ones with a certain mutation. I guess the Borg Dominatrix was right after all. This mutation is carried by one person in a million, and doesn't seem to care about the biological differences of species, because reasons. It enables affected drones to come here while they're recharging in meat space and reclaim a portion of their former lives. But that's all changing, as the Borg Dominatrix has become aware of this connection and is hunting down those affected, hence the disassembly of Dream Drone at the start of the episode. It won't be long until there are none left, unless Seven can help. See, Spicy Brain and his mates have designed a minibot virus that can hide the mutation and stop the Borg Dominatrix from finding and killing those affected. Unfortunately, drones with the mutation don't remember anything when they wake up, meaning that they can't be the ones to deploy it. For that, they'll need an outside agent, like Seven. Recognizing some of the people she sees around her helps to convince her, and after explaining that she's on a starship now, she says she'll run the idea past Captain Janeway. Not everybody here is on board with the plan though, and Meowth from earlier thinks involving someone from outside is too risky. Some others tell him to go fuck himself though, and he buggers off in a strop. Captain Spicy Brain repeats his request for help before disappearing, his meat space body having finished its recharging nap. Many of the attendees at the inevitable meeting aren't overjoyed at the thought of seeking out the Borg. Or maybe they're just pissed off at having to stand during this scene because there aren't enough seats for everybody. Either way, Seven hoists them on their own petard by referring to the interaction with Captain Spicybrain as a distress call, and that means they have to respond. Besides which, Janeway thinks this might be a way of undermining the Borg from within, and that's worth a look. So much so that she's willing to use Vulcan's psychic shenanigans. Tuvok says he can act as a link between Janeway and Seven, so she can visit UNIMATRIX 0 and talk to Captain Spicybrain for herself. The Doc has one of his moments, of course, not helped by learning that Tuvok's never actually done this before, but is overruled. He's there to keep an eye on their vitals, and Tuvok says he'll stop if anything starts to smell a bit dodgy, so in we go. Seven's decided to freshen up after being told in her last visit that she can control her appearance, and prefers to be called Annika while here too. While she's showing Janeway around, the Borg dominatrix is busy fucking about with the contents of another drone's head. She's managed to track the signal being sent between mutated drones, the one that enables them to access their shared dream space. Whatever the signal is, it has protection that makes it difficult to block. Oh well, if you can't beat them. Janeway's talking to Captain Spicybrain and explaining that hiding them isn't a permanent solution. Sooner or later they'll be discovered through other means and be back to square one. That's why she wants to work out a way of letting them keep their memories when they wake, so they can form an insurgency at the heart of the Borg. Their resistance movement might be over before it's begun. Some drones have appeared in the forest and started attacking the inhabitants. Each one that falls disappears, presumably waking up in meat space, and is identified on the dominatrix's screen. That shit works both ways though, and Meowth manages to mess up a few of the drones and send them packing. He's eventually brought down, but before the drone can finish the job, Janeway gets involved and batleths him up good and proper. The fight is watched by the Borg dominatrix, who now knows that Janeway is involved. That'll be our element of surprise down the shitter then. Janeway updates Chakotay on how things went pear-shaped while she was in UNIMATRIX 0, but she's not ready to let this go and thinks we might still be able to help them with her original idea, giving them the power to retain their memories when they wake up. To that end, the Doc has fiddled with the Borg Minibot virus given to us by Captain Spicybrain. He's changed it so it'll instead stop whatever was making them forget. Personally, I'd have made it do both, as being able to remember is irrelevant if you've got a big target painted on you, but let's ignore that for now. All we have to do is upload it to the collective, which will mean getting onto a Borg ship. There's one nearby, but Seven warns us it's both heavily armed and will be a pain in the arse to infiltrate. Still, it's a season finale, so we're going to do it anyway. While others work on the details, it's time for Seven to have another nap and let the inhabitants of UNIMATRIX 0 know what's going on. They're still under attack by the drones, and despite having organised a defence to fend them off, it's only a matter of time. I'd have sent in overwhelming numbers myself, but maybe the Borg dominatrix is enjoying herself too much to end the game. Oh, and Seven and Captain Spicybrain were totally banging when she was here before being kidnapped by Voyager, so that's a thing. Or possibly not a thing if Seven's reaction to it is an indicator. Back on Voyager, we're going over the plan. An armoured D6 will be infiltrated by Janeway on her own, and she'll manage, through means not mentioned, to get to the centre of it and upload the virus. As plans go, it could be generously described as a bit light on detail. Tuvok's main concern is that she's going alone and quotes a regulation to accompany her. B'Elanna does the same, but just makes some shit up instead. Janeway overrules them both and leaves, swiftly followed by Chakotay. His support for this plan is now wavering a touch, and he hints that if she doesn't take Tuvok and B'Elanna, he'll have a word with the Doc about whether Janeway is fit for duty. You could argue that Janeway has form on ignoring the Doc when he tries to relieve her of command, but that version of Janeway technically never existed, so maybe she'll listen this time. Either way, the threat is enough to convince her to make her solo mission into a team effort instead. Probably for the best, really, as she may need backup. The Borg dominatrix does a science to our computer so she can talk to us. Bribes and threats are offered and ignored, and she hangs up with a cryptic line about seeing Kim soon. Will bad things happen to the character that bad things happen to? What a shocking plot twist that would be. Seven's in UNIMATRIX 0 trying to coordinate efforts. If this works, the affected drones will wake up scattered all over the place, likely with nobody else to help. A stand-up fight would end very badly for them, so the plan is to gather as much data as possible while acting as drones and coordinate their efforts back here for a more technological solution. Oh, and Captain Spicybrain is officially single again now. It's poop-in time on the starship Voyager, and we're doing a violence to that heavily armed and armoured Borg D6. It's a distraction, of course, something to keep them busy while the Delta Flyer nips in. Pretty sure we've attempted the same stealth approach before in Dark Frontier, and that was with a special gizmo, but let's see how this plays out. The answer is fucking terribly. The Borg dominatrix is watching the fight and spots the Delta Flyer. It's targeted by the armoured D6 and gets very, very kaboomed indeed. This, however, was part of the plan. They've teleported aboard through a weakness caused by Voyager. The Borg dominatrix is watching this too, and has no time for that ignoring them if they're not a threat bollocks. 2 drones go down, but 2 more give 0 shits. Should have brought the infinity modulator that 7 of 9 made for that video game. As Voyager continues to trade fire with the super-powerful D6, some of it even coming from the right place, Janeway and company become trapped by force fields. More drones arrive, and after a bit of wrestling, the 3 of them are assimilated. This, too, apparently, is part of the plan. Either that or Chakotay is celebrating his promotion. Voyager turns around and scarpers, leaving the away team to become drones, as we're told that the story is to be continued. Another finale, another run-in with the Borg. There's such a thing as diminishing returns, you know. I get it, the Borg are iconic. They're a crowd pleaser, not just for them being a menacing presence, but also because they're an excuse to show some skin-tight robo-titties. But every time you feature a galactic existential threat and that overpowering nemesis gets brought low by a science ship full of chucklefucks, it becomes more and more difficult to take them seriously as an enemy. Take the combat scenes in this episode, for example. Voyager goes up against something a good 100 times its size, which Seven says is a significant threat even in comparison with a standard Borg D6, and comes away with just a handful of dings. I get that Seven's insider knowledge is useful, but there's a limit to how far the credibility of that stretches. We're supposed to be a fucking science vessel, not the space battleship Yamato. Come to think of it, that might tie into a theory I've had on here before. Most of the enemies we've faced have, if they've lasted longer than a couple of episodes, transitioned from terribly dangerous threat to nuanced and complicated social or political structure. We've not really seen that with the Borg, save for the disconnected offshoots of the hive mind that don't really count. The central premise of these guys are fucking dangerous and want to enslave you hasn't really altered, and that lack of evolution has led to stagnation. There's a certain poetry to that, I guess, as such thinking describes the Borg themselves, but that hasn't stopped them from feeling, well, a little tired by this point. There are a couple of bits worth looking at in this, though, so let's go through them. The first is a line from Janeway to Chakotay. When explaining her plan to him, she says she'll be violating 6 Starfleet protocols. It's a curious comment, as I can't see anything here that goes against the basic principles of the Federation. We're helping a group in need to fight a force who enslaved them, and many of those involved are Federation citizens or allies. It could be something about putting themselves in unnecessary danger, I guess, but that goes against what I've just said. And it's not like we haven't fucked around with the Borg before. Hell, we've done that just to rob them. It's a small line, but one that feels out of place without some sort of clarification, as though the addition of breaking rules was made purely to try and paint Janeway as a renegade, when it wasn't really necessary or even appropriate under the circumstances. A shame, really, as the rest of that exchange is a welcome one. Janeway referencing past disagreements is likely a nod to their falling out during the Scorpion two-parter, and her being unwilling to proceed without his support a potential consequence of that. In that story, she was placing the needs of her crew over what was right, willing to assist genocide for a shortcut home. Here, she's arguing with herself and wants Chakotay's support before proceeding. Had this exchange been framed in the same way, Janeway questioning whether her hesitation to help was a desire to keep her crew safe would perhaps have been more fitting. It would certainly have been more human. The other point of interest is Seven's behaviour in UNIMATRIX 0. She initially accepts being referred to as Annika, perhaps as a way of making the others comfortable, but perhaps also as a way of trying it on for size. Her later choice to withdraw from that behaviour, a switch made when she closes down the prior relationship with Captain Spicybrain, raises some questions then. Is this simply her reverting to what she knows when faced with something she can't immediately process, or is there more to it? We know she carries a lot of trauma associated with her human name due to the shitty behaviour of her parents, likely bundled up with some very messy negative associations with her childhood self. Is this an extension of that, more things to be filed under the heading of the before times? Learning that she's now had not 2 but 3 distinct existences certainly isn't going to make exploration of that stuff any easier, so I can understand the appeal of a cut-off point of sorts. If so much of what happened to her before she was taken by Voyager was negative, it's understandable that she'd simply lump it all together and attribute it to a person who's dead to her. There's also the possibility that she's recalling her disastrous foray into relationships on Voyager. Maybe a desire to not repeat that experience is her reason. Or it could be the prospect of being with someone who has memories of prior events that she doesn't share. Even if that didn't feel weird to you, there'd be an element of second-guessing yourself, wondering if past you acted in the same way as you're doing now. What if your first kiss this time round was less impressive than the original? What if he liked an aspect of your character that you no longer have? The whole thing is a potential headfuck, even before you consider the value she places on being correct. How will it all play out? Who knows? Maybe there'll be some actual consequences from this one. We already know that removal of Borgmentations can be a particularly difficult process, so a fully Borged Janeway, Tuvok and B'Elanna will raise some interesting points. I'm sure they definitely won't just fudge the whole thing and say that they were easy to remove because they were new or some shite. We'll find out in a week, I guess, when we watch Part 2, because the next video will of course be the Season 6 summary. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody by this point, but I still look forward to the inevitable complaints. End of episode.
Quick, he's coming. Get ready.
Hello? Excuse me. I think I've got a bit separated from the tour.
No worries, mate. We'll sort you out.
On behalf of the non-bipedal lifeforms on the ship, welcome to Voyager.
Oh, you must be the dogs. Everybody speaks very highly of you. Except for that guy whose face you melted, obviously.
Yeah, well, accidents happen. All the time, in fact. Who knows when the next cruel cut of death's merciless scythe may fall.
Dial it back. You're going to blow it.
Okay. Quick thing. These tours always show the shiny bits, but nobody ever points out the nearest head. Would you mind?
Head? Oh, the shitter. Yeah. Yeah, I can totally do that. It's just over here. Yeah, that's it, mate. Through there. I'll just close this door to give you some privacy. It's the button on the wall there to make the bog pop out. Have a good one.
This button? Have they redesigned the restrooms? It kind of looks like an airlock.